Hello friends, in continuation to our previous classes, today we are going to discuss about rest of the endocrine glands. Okay, we'll start with adrenal gland. Adrenal gland. After the pituitary gland, the second most important endocrine gland is adrenal gland, otherwise called suprarenal gland. Why it is called adrenal or suprarenal? The word it implies. There are one pair of adrenal glands in human being and each located at the anterior end of the kidney. That is called adrenal, suprarenal glands. Okay, and these adrenal glands consist of two tissues. That means differentiation to two tissues. Number one, adrenal cortex. Number two, adrenal medulla. Here, adrenal cortex is originated from the mesoderm, whereas adrenal medulla is originated from the ectoderm. Here the location and the origin is most important. Just like the pituitary gland, which is present in the bone depression called sella tessica of sphenoid bone, wherein the adenohypophysis originated from the Rachek's spouse. That is nothing but an embryonic outgrowth from the roof of the oral surface, whereas neurohypophysis coming from the flora of the hypothalamus. That means dual origin. Here is the same concept. Here the adrenal cortex is of mesodermal in origin, whereas adrenal medulla is of ectodermal in origin. Okay, as we have discussed, each anterior end of the kidney consists of one adrenal gland. That means only one pair of adrenal gland. Okay, something like this. Adrenal gland. This is adrenal gland. Adrenal gland, and there is a tissue differentiation into two. We will magnify the same. Then the outer peripheral tissue is called adrenal cortex. The outer peripheral tissue is called adrenal cortex. The centrally located adrenal medulla. Adrenal cortex is of mesodermal in origin, whereas adrenal medulla is ectodermal in origin. And this adrenal cortex is of, that is complex. It is again differentiated into three zones. Say for instance, zona glomerulosa. So the first layer, then zona fasciculata, then the last one, zona reticularis. The hormones of combined, that means adrenal cortex, that means zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata and zona reticulata are considered as corticoids. Corticoids. They are steroid hormones. Then we'll discuss one by one. First, zona glomerulosa. The most important hormone is aldosterone. Zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata and zona reticularis. Zona glomerulosa, the most important hormone in zona glomerulosa is aldosterone. That is why they are called mineralocorticoids. Here the kind of nature of hormones is mineralocorticoids. Whereas the zona fasciculata are known as glucocorticoids. Whereas zona reticularis are sex corticoids. The principal, the major important mineralocorticoid is aldosterone. We have discussed, when we discuss about urine formation, the role of aldosterone is very, very crucial. For example, how it means regarding the role. Say there is a fall or decrease in the blood pressure. What happens? This decrease in blood pressure stimulates angiotensin 2, which stimulates again aldosterone, and this aldosterone enables the DCT, distal convoluted tubule, and the collecting duct to reabsorb the sodium and the water. That means maintaining a water and electrolytic balance. So what we call a regulation of the electrolytes, say the sodium and the body fluids, is a main crux function of the aldosterone. That means their overall role is to maintain blood pressure and the osmoregulation. So this hormone is very important. No? For example, if we remove the adrenal this particular part, that means say the zona glomerulosa, or if there is a deficiency in aldosterone, the person will die, because proper maintenance of blood pressure, which is also one of the integral pathway of homeostasis, is must and should. That is why this is very essential role, and this is again comes under the influence of angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2. In examination point of view, they might ask you which hormone stimulates aldosterone, or which physiological conditions enables to stimulate the aldosterone. This is angiotensin 2 under low blood pressure. Under low blood pressure, this will stimulate this, angiotensin to stimulate aldosterone, and it will leads to reabsorption of Na plus and water in DCT and collecting duct. This is a major important role of aldosterone. That means mineralocorticoids. Then glucocorticoids, that means coming from zona fasciculata, they are considered as the life-saving hormones. Zona fasciculata, they are considered as the life-saving hormones. The most important hormone is cortisol here. Cortisol. Here, otherwise called hydrocortisone. Most important hormone from glucocorticoids is cortisol or hydrocortisone. The word implies glucocorticoids. They are involving, that means responsible for the metabolism of carbohydrates. How? They regulate the gluconeogenesis, lipolysis and proteolysis. This is very important. In particular to the cortisol, what is called hydrocortisone, it is essential for cardiovascular and kidney functions. This is very important. And apart from these in general, the zona fasciculata, that means glucocorticoids, and specifically the cortisol, they are responsible for the suppression of immune responses, say anti-inflammatory reaction. They inhibit these reactions. That is why here cortisol is always called stress combat hormone. Here cortisol is considered as stress combat hormone. Stress combat hormone. It also stimulates the production of RBC. This is very important. Cortisol is a stress combating hormones, whereas zone of that means glucocorticoids are the life-saving hormones. In general, they are considered as, okay, because of their role in metabolism of carbohydrates. Let's say gluconeogenesis. Say gluconeogenesis, for example, gluconeogenesis. Then the last one, that means zona reticularis, I have already discussed. They release sex corticoids. Say for example androgen. The principal androgen is the testosterone. We all knew that they are responsible for the male secondary sexual character, say the development of facial and pubic hair. So on the whole, that means the adrenal cortex have three zones: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis. And the oral hormones are considered as corticoids. And zona glomerulosa, they release mineralocorticoids. Zona fasciculata, they secrete glucocorticoids. Zona reticular, they secrete sex corticoids. The principal mineralocorticoid is aldosterone. Its role is to reabsorption, that means maintaining of water and electrolytes. Whereas glucocorticoid, that means here corticoids. Here the cortisol or hydrocortisone. Here this role is important in cardiovascular and kidney functions. And the last, the zona reticular, in the sex corticoids, important role in secondary sexual characters. This is in general there are the different physiological activities of adrenal cortex hormones. We already there is another part, what we call adrenal medulla, and this adrenal medulla will release two different kinds of hormones. Adrenal medulla. Here adrenaline or epinephrine, and noradrenaline or norepinephrine. two different, that means they are considered as catecholamines. Catecholamines. That means tyrosine derivatives. Tyrosine derivatives. You know, in the previous class, when we discussed about the depending on the chemical nature of the hormones, there are three categories: amine hormones, protein peptide hormones, steroid hormones. You know, these are corticoids are all steroid hormones. That means from zona glomerulus, physiological, they are called steroid hormones, corticoids. Okay, and with the respective important hormone. Whereas hormones coming from the adrenal medulla, they are amine hormones. Amine hormones means derivative of one particular amino acid. Here, tyrosine amino acid. They are considered as catecholamines, say epinephrine and norepinephrine. And each hormone, every hormone of adrenal gland has its own significance. Just like that, yeah, they are considered as the stress hormones. That means they release under developing varied conditions of stress, otherwise called emergency or flight hormones. You know, flight or flight hormones. Flight or emergency hormones. This is very important thing. Why? Because when we subject to different stress conditions, our physiological reactions are different. For example, you know, pupil dilation, increasing rate of heartbeat, increase the strength of contraction. You know, it's like, you know, increasing rate of respiration, sweating. These are all different emergency. That means physiological reactions when we subject to stress. Some people flight, some people fight. So they are considered as emergency hormones, and they also increase during this at this moment the blood glucose level will be raised. Why? Because they break down the glycogen from and also the lipids and proteins as well. Say there are certain physiological conditions like, you know, pupil dilation, increasing rate of heartbeat, increasing rate of respiration, sweating, and increase in blood glucose level. Why? Because they break down glycogen, lipids and proteins. They break down these things. That is why the epinephrine, adrenaline and noradrenaline are very important hormones at the time of stress. So it's all about adrenal gland. Okay. Then we'll move to the next important gland, endocrine gland, that is pancreas. You know, with respect to the endocrine glands, we should also know about its location. You know, pancreas next. Broadly, it is present, you know, posterior to the stomach. It is an elongated organ, endocrine gland, present posterior to stomach. The significance of pancreas is it consists of two parts: one exocrine and two endocrine. Endocrine is least, say, around 1 to 2%. Here, exocrine part is known as acini, whereas endocrine part is known as islets of Langerhans. Islets of Langerhans. Around, you know, 1 to 2 million are present. Here, islets of Langerhans again consists of different cells like alpha cells, beta cells, and delta cells. Here, alpha cells majorly include, you know, glucagon. Beta cells release insulin. So just take a section or cross-sectional view of pancreas. It will be like this. The central, for example, this is Islet of Langerhans. Different cells. Alpha, beta, and delta. There are acinous part. This is a bit of sketch I am giving. I'm drawing, okay. This will be acinous. Then this is Islet of Langerhans. Islet of Langerhans. And this is acinus. Say this it's a for differentiation, no? This is alpha cells, the green one the beta cells, the delta cells. Here it's a endocrine part and it is exocrine part, acinus. Okay. Here the alpha cells they release glucagon as we have discussed already, and the beta cells they release insulin. Here the glucagon and insulin they are called contrasting hormones. One it is like one act against other. For example, how it ends, say glucagon. For easy understanding, we have to understand when the glucagon is released. That means what are the physiological conditions that stimulates the release of glucagon. Here the physiological conditions are hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia respect to blood. That means when there is a decrease in the blood glucose level, it stimulates the secretion of glucagon from the alpha cells of the islets of Langerhans. What happens when this glucagon release? That what it implied. It increases the blood glucose level. That is why it is aptly considered as hyperglycemic hormone. Hyperglycemic hormone. Hyperglycemic hormone. So glucagon is a external hyperglycemic hormone. How? Simply by means of glycogenolysis. We knew that glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. We all discussed in the previous classes gluconeogenesis, the synthesis of carbohydrates from the non-carbohydrate sources. For example, amino acids, fats is gluconeogenesis. Why for all this? All this to increase the blood glucose level, and it also inhibits the uptake and utilization of the glucose by the cells. And its target organ, that means principal a point is liver. Majorly it focuses on liver and reduces the uptake of glucose by cells. This is very important. Whereas insulin, as we discussed, contrasting to that means it is a hormone that will release when there is a higher blood glucose level, what we call hyperglycemia condition. Say insulin with respect to hyperglycemia condition. Hyperglycemia condition facilitates the release of insulin. That is why it is considered as hypoglycemic hormone. Hypo means low. Hypoglycemic hormone. So the most important thing is we have to understand what are the physiological conditions that stimulate this hormone, and based on it what it is considered as. Say hypoglycemic conditions, the hypoglycemia leads to secretion of glucagon. That is why it is considered as hyperglycemia, hyperglycemic, because it increases the blood glucose level simply by gluconeogenesis, glycogenolysis, that means breakdown of glycogen to glucose units. Whereas the insulin, the opposite elements here, when there is a high blood glucose level, what we call hyperglycemia condition, and it comes and decreases the blood glucose level. How? The same features opposite to this, glycogenesis. Glycogenesis. Glycogen, the synthesis of glycogen from the glucose units, so that the blood glucose level will be reduced. That is why insulin is considered as a hypoglycemic. That means that hormone that reduces the blood glucose level by glycogenesis. At the same time, it also increases the uptake and utilization of glucose by the cells. That means principally active on liver and adipocytes. Say for example, uptake of glucose will be raised by liver, the skeletal muscles, and the adipocytes. That will all facilitate a reduction in the blood glucose level. That is why the insulin is considered as a hypoglycemic hormone, whereas the glucagon is a hyperglycemic hormone because it facilitates, that it increases the blood glucose level. That is how they are contrasting features. There is a disorder called persistent hyperglycemic condition leads to diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus. Persistent hyperglycemia. Persistent hyperglycemia. This is very important. Leads to diabetes mellitus. Okay. These are our different pancreas. endocrine part is very least 1 to 2%. Alpha cell is glucagon. It is hyperglycemic hormone by means of glucogenesis and gluconeogenesis. Whereas beta cell release insulin. It is hypoglycemic hormone by means of promoting glycogenesis and increasing uptake of glucose by the cell, and it acts mainly on liver and adipocytes. So the persistent hyperglycemia leads to diabetes mellitus. Okay, it's about pancreas. Then the another important endocrine gland is thyroid gland. Thyroid gland. The significance of thyroid gland is thyroid gland. It is the largest endocrine gland. And it is endodermally in origin. Thyroid gland is present in the way of two lobes, and it is present near to the surface in the neck region and that means present at the junction, that means nearly at the junction of larynx and the trachea. And these two lobes are connected by a thin connective tissue flap known as isthmus. And it consists of follicles and the stromal tissue. And these follicles of thyroid gland consist of follicular cells, and these follicular cells, they release thyroid hormones. There are two kinds of thyroid hormone, thyroxine, otherwise called tetraiodothyronin, and that what T4 simply, and triiodothyronin, that means T3. Just like that, when catecholamines of adrenal medulla, they are also the derivatives of tyrosine because they are the amine hormones. Thyroid gland, for example, where it is located. Say this is nearly at the junction of larynx and the trachea. Okay, this is the larynx, and this is the trachea. The larynx to trachea. Say, and that present form of two lobes. Two lobes. And this one is called isthmus. And then as follicles, which consists of follicular cells, which release thyroid hormones. We have two different kinds of thyroid hormones. Tetraiodothyronin and simply called T4 or thyroxine. Triiodothyronin. They are all derivatives of tyrosine, tyrosine amino acid. For the synthesis of this, iodine is required. Okay. And what is the role of these thyroid hormones? They are responsible. The principal role is regulation of BMR, basal metabolic rate. They are responsible for the regulation of BMR. What is BMR? Consumption, the rate of consumption of oxygen per unit weight at rest. That means the rate of consumption of oxygen per unit weight of the body at rest is basal metabolic rate, and they regulate basal metabolic rate. How they regulate basal metabolic rate? It enables the cells to utilize the cellular oxygen. What happens when the cells utilize oxygen? It leads to the synthesis of ATP, then the breakdown of ATP. What happens when there is a breakdown of ATP? It releases heat. We have discussed already. What happens when there is heat? It maintains at a proper body temperature. That is how the homeotherms or endotherms, they maintain proper body temperature by this process. That means regulation of basal metabolic rate by the thyroid hormone. That means tetraiodothyronin, that means thyroxine or T4, and triiodothyronin T3. And apart from this, they also regulate carbohydrate, protein, and fat metabolisms. In principle, they regulate basis by increasing heat content. Most important feature of homeotherms. These are all about, that means different activities of thyroid gland, thyroid hormones. And another important thing is calcitonin, calcitonin. It released from the parafollicular cells, parafollicular cells, and it is a polypeptide hormone. It is a polypeptide hormone, calcitonin, and it is considered as hypocalcemic hormone. Hypocalcemic hormone. This is very important. Just like the glucagon and the insulin with respect to glucose content, here calcitonin and the parrot hormones. I will tell you. First, we will discuss about calcitonin. Okay, that means with respect to blood calcium levels, here it is considered as a hypocalcemic. That means calcitonin is the hypocalcemic hormone. Hypocalcemic, it reduces the blood calcium level. It reduces the blood calcium level. How it reduces the blood calcium level? It in two ways. Major ways. It inhibits the osteoclast. We know that osteoclast responsible for bone resorption. That means dissolution or the demineralization of the bone. That means dissolving of calcium phosphate of the bone matrix leads, that means simply called breakdown of bone. That leads to release of calcium into the blood. That leads to increasing blood glucose level. But this hormone prevents this process. That means inhibition of osteoclast. Clast means breakdown. Osteoblast means formation of bone. This will prevent the osteoclast, thereby reducing the blood calcium level. That is why the calcitonin is aptly considered as the hypocalcemic hormone. And the other ways we also need to know, it also inhibits the reabsorption of calcium in the renal tubules. So it's about calcitonin. The opposite function, the parathyroid glands. Where are the parathyroid glands located? Same in the on the back side of the thyroid gland. For example, say this is the larynx, and these are the thyroid glands, and each thyroid gland contains one pair, parathyroid gland. Totally four parathyroid glands are present, and they release parrot hormone. Since they are all associated with thyroid, the terminology also act accordingly. Let's say the calcitonin is otherwise called thyrocalcitonin, TCT. Thyrocalcitonin, TCT. Simply they are parathyroid hormones, PTH. Parathyroid hormones. Simply called parrot hormones, PTH. It is considered as hypercalcemic hormone. Hypercalcemic hormone. How it increases the blood calcium level? Blood calcium level, it increases. Simply opposite to the calcitonin. That means it facilitates the bone resorption. That means breakdown of bone. That means it promotes the osteoclast. It facilitates osteoclast. That leads to bone resorption. Bone resorption. And this osteoclast, they break down the bone. That means dissolution, that means demineralization, the dissolution of the bone, the dissolving of calcium phosphate matrix in the bone, that leads to release of calcium content in the blood, that leads to increase in the blood calcium level. At the same time, it also facilitates the reabsorption of calcium by the renal tubule. That is how it increases the blood calcium level. And that is why it is considered as hypercalcemic hormone. The physiological condition same is when there is a reducing of blood calcium level, then the parrot hormone will come and will raises the blood calcium level. When there is an increase of blood calcium level, the calcitonin hormone will come and reduces the blood calcium level. That is why calcitonin is a hypocalcemic hormone, whereas parrot hormones are the hypercalcemic hormones. In addition to that, the parrot hormone also activates the vitamin D. That means calciferol. It is an inactive form of the hormone called calcitriol. Calciferol is an inactive vitamin D. It will become activated into calcitriol. It also activates vitamin D. Vitamin D2, that means calcitriol. 1,25 hydroxytriol. This is very important. No? The vitamin D, calciferol to calcitriol, also done by parrot hormones. So, just like glucagon and insulin. Glucagon is a hyperglycemic hormone. Insulin is hypoglycemic. And here the calcitonin is a hypocalcemic, whereas the parrot hormones are hypercalcemic. that contrasting, and here calcitonin is considered as a feedback based control mechanism. In general, okay, it is considered as feedback based control mechanism. That's how the hormones react. Okay, it's all about the adrenal gland, pancreas, thyroid, and parathyroid. Okay, you can comment, like, share, and subscribe. The main objective of my classes is to serve for the needs of poor and needy students. Okay, thanks for watching.